Hello everybody, and welcome to the CB&Q in Wyoming. I'm Mark Pruitt. Today is February 3rd, 2021, and this is layout update number 15. This update is going to be a little bit shorter than the last few have been, not because I haven't been working on the layout, but because a lot of the work I've been doing is building the oil loading platform in Casper for the refinery, and that's a lot of work, takes a lot of time, but you don't see a whole lot, and I didn't take a lot of pictures as I went. I've also done a few other things on the layout, and I'll show you those as well. Sometime in the next week or two, I'm going to start a new series on the channel. It's called Building Casper. What that series will be about is building Casper Yard on the layout. I'll go through my approach, the design, why I did what I did, why the yard is the size it is, and so on. And then I'll go through in more detail than I do in the layout updates how I've been building the yard. Since the yard isn't finished, I can't tell you how many episodes there will be in this series. They'll just continue until I do have the yard pretty much finished. There's not going to be any regular time schedule for these to come out. You'll just have to keep an eye on the channel to see when they do. Well, that's more than enough of my face for the month. Let's get to the layout. We left off last month talking about the tank car loading racks at the Standard Refinery, so let's pick back up there. If you recall, I had ordered 7 more of the Walthers racks and was waiting for them to come in. They arrived, and I spent many hours during the latter part of the month assembling them. Since I had 7 of them to build, I decided to take an assembly line approach. First, I built up all the platform stands. Then I created piping, riser, delivery pipe, and platform subassemblies. Just yesterday, I finished the last subassemblies and started, just barely, on final assembly. Here's the current state, about 2.5 platforms set in place on the layout. I had also started ballasting the Chicago and Northwestern shelf above Casper in late December. I continued with that and got what I think are passable results. Then I dug out my never used, still in the box Woodland Scenics Static King static grass applicator. Finally, after far too many years, it was time to do some real scenery. I removed the wax paper over the backdrop and got ready to go to town. I ran a few experiments on some scrap wood before I applied it to the CNW shelf. I'm sure glad I did. Early results were not encouraging, so I turned to the trusty group on model railroader forums for advice. Following some of their suggestions, plus obtaining a beefy 12-volt wall wart, led me to take a shot at applying grass to the layout. I fumbled around for a couple of hours getting the feel of what I was doing. At the end of that time, I had about 6 inches of static grass on both sides of the track and the severely rutted roadway. A few days of work rewarded me with a section that looks like this. Believe it or not, there's more than just static grass. There's also some coarsely ground oregano, yes, oregano, for ground cover, and some very small green weeds that you might see if you look really close. So of course I had to shoot a short video of a train on the track. And here's the train with a stake bed truck trying to keep pace alongside. That probably wouldn't be hard to do since the train ran about 20 miles per hour, but the ruts on that very primitive road were threatening to shake the truck driver's fillings out at that speed. I hung more wax paper further down the line, that's towards Hudson, to continue the work. During the remainder of January, in between building the oil rack subassemblies and other things, I put down more celluclay ground cover and ballasted more of the CNW track. Yesterday I removed almost all the wax paper. I still haven't done static grass in the new area, but that will be coming during February. So what else did I do in January? Well, I sketched out the locations of major features in the east end of Casper Yard. That included roughing in industries, roads, parking lots and such, like here at Rocky Mountain Drilling at the far east end and at the location of the ice house. That was in preparation for adding ground cover to the east end of the yard, which began late in the month. Some of you may remember the classification track scenicking debacle of a couple years ago on the layout in New Jersey. It didn't come out well, and I abandoned the effort for the time being. But it's about time to try again, and this time I have a different idea. My dirty ballast approach worked very well for the CNW track, so I figured I could try a variation on Casper Yard. The idea is to use real, home-processed dirt for the general cover. I prepared the dirt as I described in my video, How I Make Dirty Ballast, except I left out the ballast and added some black powdered pigment tempera paint. I added about 20% powdered wallpaper paste as an adhesive and sprinkled the far back corner of Casper with this concoction. Then I soaked it thoroughly with wet water from a fine mister and left it to dry. And dry it did. And crack. That did not go as planned. I removed the cracked dirt layer and tried again. I was pretty sure I had simply applied the dirt layer too thick. I applied several much thinner layers, letting each dry before adding the next. I also expanded the area a bit as I went. This is the current state. Not terrible, but also not exactly what I had envisioned. So in a few days, a friend from the local club, who has been doing very nice scenery for years, will be coming over to show me how he does it. I'm sure things will improve greatly from there. On the 20th, I started adding the Casper skyboard to the back wall below the CNW shelf. First, I put up the frame. Then I prepared the rolled up styrene skyboard I'd salvaged from the New Jersey layout. This involved cutting it down in height by a few inches and setting it up for installation. With my wife's help, we got the new skyboard install started. I quickly realized that the CNW fascia was in the way, so down it came in sections as work progressed. With a few hours work over the next 2 days, the Casper skyboard was installed and fascia was back up where it belongs. A couple of seams in the skyboard need some repair. Then I'll add a fresh coat of sky blue paint. In a few months, I'll add the backdrop. I pushed Casper back in the corner where it belongs, just to see how it would look. And that's it for the past month. Next month, I hope to finish the structural build of the oil loading racks, with lighting to follow later, and make some good progress on Casper's basic ground cover. I'm also going to try to get the scenery done on most of the CNW shelf behind Casper, and maybe start on the curved sections into Hudson. Remember to keep an eye out for episode 1 of Building Casper, and check out my website for more modeling on this and previous layouts. The web address is on the screen, and I'll put a link in the description. Thanks for watching, stay healthy, stay safe, and I'll see you next month.